No reira e te iwi wānui urino tō tātou nei maunga puta noa ki wā I ke ki te katoa tō tātou nei motu tēnei te mihi atu ki au koutou katoa. No reira, wai maari I ahau ki te kōrero atu ki tō tātou nei rangatira. O roto I nei āhuatanga o te COVID-19 te urutā. No reira, ka tuku ki arere te aroha, te me ki a koe e Bernie, e te tūngane, me kura hoki. E noho ana ki te kāinga, koutou te wānau tēnā koe Bernie.
I te tuahine a tai tēnā ki rā koe. Nōku, te whiwhi nōku, te waimari, mō tēnei wahanga nei, me te mihi anora ki te whānau o te korimako tēnei watunu, tēnā koutou. Kia ora.
Ai, tēnā koe Bernie. No reira, ka noho tātou o roto I te taumata tua. Wow, we're sitting in level 4. And first and foremost, before we start, you live in Auckland, but you're actually not in Auckland.
No. So I was in Pōneke actually, whanganui a tara with the hui, and then they announced the lockdown, and then I spoke to Kura because my mokopuna, two of my mokopuna live here with my son, with my uncle in Wellington, and we made a decision that I'd stay with them for level 4 of the lockdown, and it's a decision I think my son's starting to regret because he's hoping like heck that the decision today will allow me to go back to Auckland. But if not, you know, one of the things we do from the previous lockdown is that we can work remotely. We're very much a connected owl now, so I can do the work from here, but just sort of starting to miss my mate actually. I'm missing. She was telling me, she was telling me, gee, it's quiet here. And I said, that's because you're missing your voice when you growl me.
Oh, Bernie.
Which is yeah, no. So
you're talking from the heart now.
Kei pōneke no hana mo tēnei wā.
Ka pai. No reira, looking at the array of pōtai that you have, and if you don't mind me saying, I just want to read out a few of them while we have this opportunity to do that. But you are the Chair for Manukau Urban Māori Authority. I wasn't meant to say, but no. Chair for Te Pai Motu Ake o Te Reo Tukutuku, Te Mātā Wai. You're also the Chair for UMA Broadcasting. These are just only a few that I'm looking at. You're also Director for the Wānau Order Commission Agency. You are the board member for Kāpuia Ministry Advisory Panel into Royal Commission of Inquiry. You were also part of the Christchurch terrorist attacks. And also the director for Te Wakaruruhau o Ngā Reo Irirangi Māori. My goodness, Bernie, ngā mihi kawana ki a koe, eh?
Oh, cool. There's a couple I just want to mention without trying to be the titihi tangata whakahihi. But the ADHB is something that I'm on as well as the Auckland District Health Board. That was a ministerial appointment because, unfortunately, in today's sort of the way we do things today, we still can't get our people onto the boards where they need to be. So the government has to intervene and place Māori seats, Māori into those boards, so the Māori voice is being heard. Yeah. So I'm on a number of boards, but I think there's a theme that comes through that, which is about well-being, which is about hope in a holistic sense. And if we don't start to advocate the needs of our communities and our iwi with the intelligence that we have, then someone else will. And that's always a danger when you have. I'm not saying the wrong people at the table, but the fit isn't quite right in terms of the intelligence that needs to come into spaces where they're making decisions for our people, especially around well-being. Well-being is the new nuance, if you like, about how we talk about health. If we left it in Pākehā to talk about health, it's all clinical. It's always clinician-based, and unfortunately, the problem with that model is that they're always going to be the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff for our people, because the damage is already done. If you think about when our people get diseases which are through lifestyle decisions that they've made, but they make those because they have very few options, because the main thing under that sort of thinking is poverty driven. So my job really in those spaces that I'm in is to talk about and advocate for Māori wellbeing, understanding the failures of the current system, and so that's sort of my new mahi now. I enjoy it.
Tēnā koe mai rā kōrero, Bernie. So we see ourselves in COVID-19 again, Bernie, and everything that you've just spoken about. Never more so is it heightened during this time for our people.
Yeah. So we've had a chat about that, and we're quite good at it, all of us, in terms of our Māori leaders or Māori rōpū throughout Aotearoa are really, really good at taking care of their whānau and their people. Why? Is because they are what we call trusted voices. They're not strangers within the community. Quite often, if you have the wrong people in the communities, they don't get the engagement that they need. So when we talked about this lockdown, what are the learnings that we've gained from the previous lockdowns, the previous lockdowns, and one of them is about the key thing that we want to worry about in terms of Muma is the well-being of our frontline people. I mean, we are so eager to serve as a people. We are so when our communities, when our whānau, when our hapu need us, we're there, and in times of need, and we just selflessly do what's required to make sure that our people are safe. While we're doing that, sometimes we forget about our own safety. So the main thing for us in terms of lockdown to a far level 4 is to make sure that, yes, we need to be there. We need to be frontline to ensure our people's needs are being met. But at the same time, we also need to be acutely aware of how we're putting ourselves at risk. This COVID strain, this Delta strain, is different than the previous strain because it's airborne. You don't have to be in contact with people to get it. And because of that, it's still not totally visible. And that's the bit we're worrying about at the moment. We don't know where it is. Every day there's a new place of interest, and every day there are new contacts at the moment. So the first thing, I'm starting to sound like the Prime Minister, the first thing we're trying to do is to get a handle on understanding where it might be and be able to start controlling that. At the moment, we don't know where it is. And that's why we still have the lockdown in those places around in Tāmaki, Makaurau and Coromandel. The only other thing is that we're really crossing our fingers is that it hasn't gone beyond those areas, which is why they're still doing the testing throughout the motu, just to make sure that we've caught it in time, if you like. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, Bernie, that and we're thinking the same here in Taranaki, that it doesn't reach our borders or within Taranaki, and I suppose the same for everybody else right across the motu. But Bernie, you've been in touch with a lot of those services and people that are up on those high levels, and what's the kōrero there?
There's nervousness about it this time because we know how it operates, and the last time we went through the first COVID strain, we got it under control. The lockdown, keeping in our bubbles, the lockdown, various stages of lockdown allowed us to control it, to get it, to identify it, control it, and then stamp it out, for want of a better word. We're not sure now if that approach is going to work. So look, we don't need to panic. We just need to make sure that we do the things that's asked of us. We need to make sure that importantly, face masks are absolutely important, especially when you're going out.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Bernie.
Yeah, the other thing, which is crucial, is stay in your bubble. Don't you protect that bubble, because that's going to be your protection as we get through this. We're not in lockdown for nothing, eh? We're in lockdown to protect ourselves. So those are the two things. Just if we had to really emphasize those two things, and why we're doing that is because the virus, the strain is different, and it's airborne. No need to panic, but just follow what we've put in place, what our Prime Minister has put in place for us.
I look, because I have to come to work and I only live around the corner, but I look on the roads. Normally at 8:30 it's packed, but in the last 2-3 days it's been quiet. So that indicates to me that everyone's listening. They are staying home, but you get the odd few that go out, no masks, think they can just rock up to the supermarkets, pharmacies, wherever you're allowed to go. Do you think it should be mandatory for everyone?
Yes, it should, especially in the second outbreak. The first outbreak, we were all a little bit lenient because we were unsure of what we were facing. So I accept that there had to be some sort of settling into what it meant. I don't think it's acceptable now. And here's the reason, is that if you don't want to conform, that's fine, but you put us at risk. And that's the thing you have to think about. I did have an experience with one old bloke who's my mate, actually been my mate for about 20, 30 years. He was adamant. He wasn't going to wear a mask. He wasn't going to have a test. He wasn't going to vaccinate when that became available. And he was set in his ways. He wasn't going to do this because he thought it was all about a conspiracy theory and the government really is just trying to fool us. It took his son to tell him, if you want to continue to see my mokopuna, your mokos, and if you want to see my whānau, get the shot or else stay away. And sometimes that's the kind of trusted voice, that voice of love, if you like, that can break through those barriers and those perceived sort of issues that they have. And this is a bloke who was, as I said, adamant. And when we caught up with him, because again, we had to go and see this person because he still hadn't been vaccinated or tested. And he says, no, I'm going to get vaccinated. I'm going to get vaccinated. I said, what? Oh, no, we said, what? And he goes, oh, it's my son who's told me that. And these are the conditions. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe if people think that they're fine, think about the whānau around them. And if we truly love them, then it's almost a no-brainer. And that's sort of the message now. Do it for your whānau.
You and I. Yeah, thank you, Bernie. But, for you and I, it's a no-brainer. But for others that still think that way, there's still a lot of learning lessons to follow. But Bernie, as you said, you're down in Pōneke, and now you live in Auckland, and your beautiful partner, your beautiful wife, Kura, is up there. And how's that been for you?
It's only been 3 days, but it's been difficult because I do miss getting growled, actually, and I do miss being reminded of what's important. And it's been wonderful though, because I've been able to spend some time with my two oldest mokopuna. So it's been good to sort of catch up with them and my son. But there are two places I call home, called Taranaki Taku Haukainga, ko Tāmaki Makaurau ki te tonga taku kaipō. And those things, I've got to be in either one of those two spaces. And I was thinking, how come Tāmaki Makaurau is taku kaipō? One, I lived there for most of my life, but secondly, that's where my mokopuna grew up. So they have, I was listening to them yesterday actually, and they have a hard South Auckland accent, which you cannot make up. And you have this look that they have and this cackle that they have, which is part Tongan, and you know where they're from by the way they act and they laugh. And that's why, that's all they know in terms of their whakatupuranga. They know Taranaki is their home. We go there when we can, but they're kaipō because their life is South Auckland, and as long as it's their life, it's my life as well. So,
Ngā mihi kia koe. No reira, it's a bit like our dropping of the H here in Taranaki, isn't it?
No,
hard and fast.
Oh, bro, I get reminded of that too. Actually, when I start doing it. Ngā tōku taku rea na si no ia koe, se no Taranaki me pehe tō mita, so tika tonu, tika
No
tonu.
reira, oh, aroha mai, Bernie. But just those messages to our people, and may I say on behalf of Te Korimako o Taranaki, Te wānau here, huri noa tō tātou nei maunga, e tuku kia rere te aroha kia koe, koutou te wānau, me a tātou nei tini paranga wananga e noo nei ki Tamaki Makaurau. Ki Pōneka Okira, no reira, kei a koe te wā mutunga, kei a koe te kupu wakamutunga, no reira, tēnā koe.
I roto i te ākotanga o te manaakitanga te mea nui kei muri a tātou tēnei wā. Pai no hoki rai te manaakitanga ki iti atu. Ngari, taku karere kia koutou kare te whakahai tēnei te rongoa o te COVID, tērā vaccination, kare te pirangi te werohia, tērā rongoa. Mēnā, e tangata whai aroha koe. Mēnā, he taonga au mokopuna. Me tukuna mai taua rongoa kia whakapai ki a koe, koe nā tāku.
No reira, Bernie, ka tika koe e pāna ki tau rongoa, ko vaccinations me ki rā, ko tīmata ke anō, tēnā. E o te anō rā, ko tai tātou ki te mutunga o tō tātou nei kōrero. E hara i te mea, te mutunga mō tēnei wā. Ko ake nei, o roto i ngā arangi e whai ake nei, ka kōrero atu mātou ki a koe, me kura uki, kia noho mārire koe, o roto i tō kāinga, o roto i a tātou nei ake kāinga, uri noa te motu, no reira Bernie, tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, kia hāne nia te noho anō rā mō, kia ora.
Kia ora.